Hello, my health freedom loving friends. Miste Karlfeldt here with Health Freedom Idaho.
And I'm Sarah Clendenon with Health Freedom Idaho.
We are here to tell you how to handle the Capitol. And I think one of the first things you should know is that R and D doesn't mean a lot here in Idaho. In fact, I think a lot of people moving here from other states, they think as long as they vote R, Republican, that something like vaccine mandates are going to happen in a state like Idaho because there's so many Republicans in our legislature. But that's really just not the case because the Republicans here are what we call rhinos, Republican in name only. And when you look at their Sunshine Report and you see how much money that they're getting from pharma, you can quickly see which way they're going to vote, where their loyalty lies, right? So don't be confused when you see an R by their name and assume that they're going to be pro-health freedom because as we've experienced at the Capitol talking with legislators, that just is not the case. So you have to make an informed choice at the voting booth. You can't just rely on the R by their name. And also when you're having conversation with them, you can't assume that because they have an R by their name that they're on the right side of freedom.
Right. Although the Republican Party platform does talk about personal liberty and bodily autonomy and freedom, that doesn't, in Idaho, does not necessarily mean that that's what they stand for, unfortunately.
Right. But at least with Republicans, you can hold them to their party platform. You can say, that's not in line with your party platform. What they have said back to me is, well, we are free to sort of deviate from the party platform.
Which is not okay. You can't call yourself a Republican unless you're actually a Republican.
But they're doing it in Idaho.
But they do it anyway, yeah, because they know that having that R usually is helping them get elected. Mm-hmm. And so you can't be an uninformed voter. You have to do your homework.
Yep. And when you're talking to that legislator at the Capitol, start asking them just like anybody else, because just because they have an R doesn't mean they're going to be pro-health freedom.
Right.
Okay, what's next?
Don't make any assumptions.
Yeah, for sure.
So the next thing we wanted to talk about for people that have not spent a lot of time at the Capitol or been involved up to this point, just how to get in contact, first of all, with your two representatives and your senator, just the very basic logistics of how to call them, how to email them, how to find them, where their office is.
I didn't know any of that when I first started.
It's very overwhelming.
It's totally overwhelming. You go to the website, it's a little bit better now. What's the website?
Okay, so the website, if you want a really good starting place, is legislature.idaho.gov/legislators.
It's significantly better than when I first started in politics,
yes,
that website.
Right.
But that's where you can find out how to contact your legislators.
Right, and that will have a lot of information. It has their name, the district they represent, even sometimes their home address, their home phone number, their office phone number. It has a lot of good information. And that reminds me of something that we wanted to touch on, which is, I know a lot of people hesitate throughout the year to contact their representatives because they feel like that's like the off season, right, or they shouldn't bother them. No. No. These people represent us all year long. Mm-hmm. And the reason their home phone number is on the website is because they obviously are willing to take calls and talk to people all year long.
As they should.
And to be honest, that's the best time to talk to them is in the off season because during legislative session, they are absolutely slammed, overwhelmed, like trying to read rules and bills and so many things constantly. So the best thing you can do is actually call them when they're at home during the off season.
Mm-hmm. And meet with them in person during the off season.
Right, for sure.
They have run for this position, right? It's not like you shoved them in that position. Right. They ran for the position. They want to be in this position. That means they're supposed to be accessible to you. So as we are now headed into legislative session, it's harder to meet with them. But when they are at home, they have more time. And this is the time you can really bend their ear about your issues.
Right. And it's something we always recommend anyway, because it's really important to build a personal relationship. They are a human being. And so it's nice to meet with someone maybe for the first, 1 or 2 times and have coffee and and meet them on that human level first before you even maybe dive into your issues.
True. And a lot of you that are moving here from another state, you might be used to getting blocked, at the Capitol where you moved from and not being able to have access to your legislator. You're going to find here in Idaho, that is one of the great things about our Capitol, our legislature. We do have access. Right. They don't have a bunch of staff in between you and them.
Right. And so don't be intimidated to actually reach out and use those phone numbers and emails and all that. Of course, always be respectful.
Right.
That one kind of just, goes without saying. Secondly, Don't be intimidated. I mean, these are just people. They're just like us. Like they're just Idahoans.
Yeah.
They are, for the most part, really good people. They're moms, they're dads, they're teachers. They're out there in the community just like we are. So don't be intimidated to talk to them. They need to hear from us. They want to, and that is their job.
Right. So when you meet with your representative, I always recommend first getting to know them. Why did you run for office? What are you hoping to accomplish this legislative session? What are your passions, right? Because there's a reason that they ran for office. There's things that obviously are their passion and why they're there, right? And so get to know them, find out what their passions are, and then you can start talking to them about your issues. And the fact is they only know what they know, right? So we happen to know about health freedom. We need to share that knowledge with them.
Right.
And if we're not, guess who they're hearing from?
Yeah.
Paid lobbyists.
Paid lobbyists and the pharmaceutical industry and people that we do not want them hearing from.
Right. And that's who isn't afraid to call, isn't afraid to show up, isn't afraid to take them out to lunch, right? So they're already doing that. And if they're not hearing from us, then they're not getting the other side of the story.
Absolutely. And we are the experts on what is happening in Idaho. We are the people of Idaho. We are the pulse. We are who they represent, who they should be hearing from, and who they should be speaking for when they're in committee and on the floor in the Capitol.
If you have a vaccine injured child, or if you are vaccine injured, to share your story. I did have a very wonderful man who I consider a friend in the halls of the Capitol say to me, if vaccine injury is real, then where are all these vaccine injured children? And he wasn't trying to be a jerk. This was a legitimate point of view.
Right.
And I was stunned because, of course, we're in it.
Right.
And we know vaccine injured families, and we talk to vaccine injured families. So to me, it's totally pervasive and obvious, but to someone else,
Right.
it isn't. And it dawned on me, and I said, the reason you don't see it is because they're at home.
Right.
They can't get out of their houses. They have vaccine injured children.
Right.
So what are you going to take your grown child who's in a diaper, banging his head around, to the Capitol, or to the grocery store, or to the mall, or on a flight? All these common places that you would go, they're not able to go there.
Right.
And it really smacked me in the face,
Right.
that this is an issue, because they're not seeing vaccine injury,
Right.
because they're at home.
And we, of course, try to be the voice of the vaccine injured as much as we possibly can,
We
because
try.
because we can be there more than
Yes.
parents who are dealing with that.
But tell your story.
But tell your story, and do it. If you can only do it through email or only do it on a phone call, do it that way. Do it any way you can.
Do it, because
sure.
they don't know what's happening in Idaho. They're not seeing it. So we need to be the ones bringing it to their attention.
Right.
But like, you had a meeting recently, and he was very numbers driven.
Right.
And so he needed stats, you know,
Right.
hard stats. So that's part of the getting to know them process.
Right.
What drives this legislator?
Sure.
You know, you can tell that when you meet with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're
And-
numbers driven or story driven, what's going to kind of
Right.
bring them into what your passion is.
But if you're not a numbers person, I would say don't be intimidated anyway, because going into that
It's true.
meeting, I didn't know that about
Yeah.
him, and so I didn't have
That's how you learn.
I had no statistics in front of me,
Yep.
but we still had a great human to human, interaction. And then he asked me, "Can you now email me the numbers?" And of course, I'm totally willing to do that. So.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine
And
to
now
follow
you know.
up, and now I know.
But you won't know if you don't meet with them.
Exactly. And it's fine to have the conversation and then later, use our website as a resource and follow up with those studies and all those numbers and any information that they're looking for. And if they're willing to learn, we certainly want to be the ones teaching them.
Right.
Don't be intimidated. Be yourself. Tell your story. Don't be afraid. Like, if we don't talk to them, nobody will, or the wrong people will.
Right.
So please be yourself and make that connection.
And don't allow for the brush off. Okay, so like I was saying, you don't have a bunch of staff between you and the legislators, but you do get some brush offs because they're busy, right? And so they kind of want you to it's a busy day, can you go away? Oh, it's a busy day. Does he have 5 minutes for me anytime today? Right? And then, I'll wait a half hour. I'll sit there and work on my phone. It's no big deal. I'll wait to get that 5 minutes. So don't just, let him go, oh, it's a busy day. You're going to have to call back, or you're going to have to come another day. Okay, but when can I come back?
Right.
When can I have the phone call?
Right.
Right? So you might call all your representatives, and then you might have to call again. I've heard from several people that just one phone call or one email didn't get the appointment.
Right.
They're busy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like we all are.
Especially during session.
they're extra busy.
Yeah. And some of the most influential meetings that we've ended up with were because we just happened to
Right.
be there and we were willing to wait.
Right.
And we would go to lunch and come back, or, I mean, and I know not everybody can be at the Capitol all day long, all the time. But if you have an extra half an hour and you say to the secretary or whomever, can I wait? And can they meet with me after they're out of a session, after their committee hearing meeting or whatever? A lot of times you can get meetings that you didn't maybe otherwise would not have.
Right. So if you get an appointment with one, then go to the offices of the other ones.
Yeah.
And ask them, when can I talk to my representative? This is important to me.
Right.
So don't be deterred. Okay. You don't have a bunch of staff in between you and your legislator, but there might be some deterrence, and just don't be deterred, because I think the most important thing is that we have to remember we're doing this for our children, and there's nothing we won't do for our children.
That's right.
If we're thinking about ourselves, and is it embarrassing, or is it hard, or did I get brushed off, or is it overwhelming, intimidating, that could stop us. But if you think about your adorable little cutie at home and tap into that, there's nothing that will get in my way of protecting my child.
That is so true. There's been so many times when I was really nervous going into a meeting.
Me too.
Or to testify. Oh my gosh.
Me too.
That can be really overwhelming. And there's been
Yes.
so many times I've sat there right before it's my turn and thought of the vaccine injured kiddos that I know.
Yep.
And all the babies that are relying on us to
Yep.
keep our republic.
Yep. I'll be driving and I'll be so nervous and thinking I can do anything for my child for 3 minutes.
Right.
It's a 3-minute testimony.
Right.
I can do anything
Right.
for my child for 3 minutes.
If we are not their voice for those 3 minutes, nobody's going
That's
to
right.
be.
That's right.
Yeah.
So don't let them intimidate you.
That's
because
right.
you are the first line of defense for your children.
And it is only our republic if we can keep it.
Yes.
And that is what we are there to do, is
That's
to keep
right.
it. Just the logistics of where to go and how can be overwhelming.
Right.
So we will have a map. I'm going to try to make an electronic and a paper version so that
Awesome.
we can give those out. And always feel free to reach out to us about, where's this hearing? Where is my representative's office?
Internet does kind of not always work inside the Capitol.
Especially down on the bottom
down
floor.
on the bottom floor.
Yeah.
So if we're not getting back to you, it's either because we're in a meeting or we're not getting great service.
Right.
So that's something to consider when you're in there.
Yes.
And parking, I would definitely recommend getting there 15 minutes early because parking takes a little while. So if you need to be there for an 8 a.m. meeting, then plan on being there at 7:45. And the traffic getting there is crazy. Everybody's going into downtown. So whatever time it takes, usually takes me 20 minutes from my house, it takes 45.
Yeah.
So you got to budget extra.
If
You
you
got to
have
budget extra time.
Yeah, especially in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of first come, first serve when you sign up to testify. There is, so when you get to the committee room, there is a sign-in sheet. And then you put your name and you put whether you want to testify or not. And it's first come, first serve. So some of the big hearings that I knew were going to be packed, I was literally an hour early. The hearing was at 8 o'clock. I was there at 7 because if I'm last on the list, I'm not going to be heard. So definitely keep that in mind on important hearing days. You need to be there very early. And whatever way that you can contribute, whether it's financially, whether it's spreading the word and getting more people to become members, whether you can help with website stuff, social media stuff, legislation, helping Sarah to write bills,
Yes, please.
researching, right? Maybe you can't leave the house, but you can research, right?
Right, writing, editing,
Yes.
so many things that we need.
Yes.
Cartooning.
Oh my gosh,
you name
cartooning.
it, whatever your
Yes.
gift is, we can use it.
Yes, please, please, we need your help.
Yes.
So thank you so much for becoming a member. That already is a great first step. So now there's more you can do.